Hey guys, so welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. And as you know, this show was put together specifically to find some of the best coaches, consultants out there who've built businesses and really created success for themselves and to introduce you to them. And today I have my good guests here, Holly Irvin here. So Holly, welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. We had a little glitch here, but they will never know what just happened, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So tell us about what type of a coaching business do you run?
So I run strategic planning and organizing. I like to call myself a mental organizer because I feel in my heart and soul that when your life is organized, then your brain is organized, your mind is organized, and you can work through things effectively. So that's a little bit about what I do.
Hmm. Okay. And how did you call it? What did you say?
I call it a strategic planning and mental organization.
Okay. Strategic plan and mental organization.
Yes.
So what got you interested in that specific field?
Well, when I was in my undergrad, even before then, I never ever considered myself organized. I was very
Hmm.
irresponsible. I lost stuff all the time. Irresponsible with money, with my car, with everything, like everything. And so it showed up in every other aspect of my life. It caused me to be late to work. It caused me to get bad grades in school. And so whenever I started this mental shift, I noticed that, I was kind of cleaning up after myself a little bit more. I was kind of focusing my money in different areas. And so it literally shows up in different areas of your life. So that's what I coach. And that's what is really near and dear to my heart.
Hmm. Wonderful. And you actually, that's very interesting because in today's day and age, there's so many different coaching and consultant niches as far as how you could help people. And a lot of people, they kind of struggle with figuring out what to do and how to help. So in essence, for you coming to the point of saying, okay, now I want to help others do that, was it a pretty difficult transition or was it just pretty a natural thing? How did that come about?
Well, it it was a little bit of a tough transition only because I came from preschool teaching. So
Hmm.
as a preschool teacher, I don't see too much difference because I'm telling kids what to do, and it's like as a coach I'm just rewording it. I'm rephrasing it into a language that adults can understand. And so the transition into coaching wasn't hard itself, but like finding who I was going to coach, like finding my avatar specifically was a little bit difficult. I quit my job, and after that, I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So I hired business mentors and I hired a life coach, and they kind of walked me through it. But like at first, I had no clue. I was like, who do I help? What do I do? What am I good at even? And it ended up being one of those things that was like right in front of my face, but I
Hmm.
couldn't see it.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you quit your job. Now, when you quit your job, did you have the idea to start your business where you're like, okay, I have the vision of what I want to do, so I'm gonna quit my job to do this, or were you just like, okay, I'll just quit and then figure it out? How
I
did your
quit and then I figured it out. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I had no idea. Like I just knew that I didn't want to continue living in a place where I didn't necessarily see myself in the future. Like I I just feel like I still have so much life to live, and what's the point of I wasn't miserable, but what's the point in complaining about something when I can control it and I can change it? So I just decided to quit and figure it out along the way. And so that's exactly what I did. I jumped and the net kind of appeared.
Yeah. Now, when you quit, I guess the question becomes: when you quit, did you know it was going to be some type of coaching type of model, or were you just really just I have no idea. Let's just see what is thrown my way.
Well, prior to quitting, I had already started working on a couple business ventures myself. I had talked to a few business people. I had been in entrepreneur groups. I knew I wanted to work for myself. I just didn't know exactly how I was going to make that money or exactly what I was going to do. So it just kind of clicked to me when I joined the business mentorship, because like they were coaches. I had experienced coaching before, and I was like, well, why not? I was a teacher before. I can do this.
Hmm. Okay. And what about the transition? Was it a pretty easy transition for you?
Not the easiest. I still consider myself transitioning. Like I'm not exactly like I feel like I'm constantly transitioning. Like I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I feel like that point of where I want to be is like ever going. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
for me, I feel like it's definitely a lot more clear now than it was before, but I'm still growing and evolving along the way. I'm still transitioning.
Yeah, and that's so powerful to mention because I know when I first started my business, I really thought that there was going to be a day when I arrived. I remember when I hit my first like $100,000 in my business, I was like, man, I have arrived. But then I realized that when this type of industry, especially as an entrepreneur, like there's always another level, always, 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 and you got to keep growing. And the minute you stop evolving and getting better, the minute you go out of business, right? So it's always a never-ending whole game of improvement. So now, in terms of how you work with your clients, what's the process of working with them? What's your what type of what's your structure for taking them through to help them get results?
Well, I have two things right now. I reinvented the passion party. So I call it the passion party, which is a 4-week course, and it
Hmm.
helps them kind of, if they don't already know their passion, kind of find their passion and go through with it and like reach that goal quicker, right? Because like my job is to cut their time in half. They can realistically, they can find all the information on their own, but when they have that coach, then they have that accountability, then they have that structure in place, then they have all the things that they need, and they can, skyrocket in 4 weeks rather than just take 4 months or 4 years to do so. So I have the passion party, which is a 4-week course, and then I also have one-on-one, which is more like 3 months. And then
Hmm.
after the 3 months, they can renew if they want to. But it all depends on, at that call, like where they're really struggling and what I can specifically help them with. Because if they
Hmm.
need a little bit more than a 4-week course, then that would be more so one-on-one.
Yeah. Okay. And you said you call it the passion party. Is there any mojitos and mimosas included as
I guess there
bonuses?
could be. It's whatever, it
Yeah.
depends on what their passion is, their
Yeah.
perspective.
Got you. Got you. So how did you come up with the name the passion party?
Well, it kind of had a ring to it at first, and not realizing what an actual passion party was. Like I didn't know that that was an actual thing that was like in its own world. So I call it the reinvented passion party. But
Mhm.
it's really about like finding the things that you really love to do, because life is so short to be miserable. Like I think the ultimate reason that I started coaching was like, how you see those like death announcements on Facebook, and it's like, oh my gosh, like you see those obituaries. I saw
Mhm.
3 in 1 week,
Oh
and this was
goodness.
like 3 in 1 week on my friend's um, page. I think it was like 2 weeks after I quit my job, and I was like, I can't live my life like this. I have got to change. Like I cannot continue living my life. And I was never miserable. Like I was already into coaching. I was already into mindset work and things like that. But it was like, why can't I help other people, find what they're really good at and find their purpose? Because that's what life is ultimately about. We don't want to spend it miserable, going through the motions, complaining all the time. We want to spend it happy. We want to spend it doing what we love to do. So I think that's the ultimate reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I think that's the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see you've also as you mentioned, you built some courses already. You have your 4-week course and stuff like that. Now, how do you see courses? Because that's another whole evolution within coaching as well too. Because I know most people when they first get started, either they're working with one-on-one or maybe doing like maybe a done-for-you type of model, or they're having to trade time for money. But when you come to courses could definitely change the game for any type of coach or consultant. So, how has your course changed? Just your trajectory in terms of what's now possible for you.
Well, since I'm actually very new to the coaching game, I guess I'll say, like, I
Hmm.
don't have too much skin in the game yet, but I am working on building like an actual course. So, like, my 4-week course would be like a Zoom call, kind of like me speaking to, the client. And so I would do like one call per week over the span of the 4 weeks, give them homeworks, give them things to do so that they can work on that throughout the week.
Hmm.
Um, but there are courses online that I am looking into building myself. That way that wouldn't be a thing, me speaking one-on-one to them, or, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, whatever the course fills up to be. However, I do think that could change the trajectory a great bit. I actually, before I got on this interview, spoke with an entrepreneur who has multiple online courses, and I've seen trajectory skyrocket because of it. And it's like, it's insane how many people you can help just by doing that.
Yeah, yeah. That is so
And that way you're
powerful.
not spreading yourself thin either, because the more you give to yourself, the more you can give to your clients and customers.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's definitely one of the biggest shifts myself and most of my clients have made in our businesses as well too, is making that shift from going from the one-on-one. And one-on-one is great because again, you get some really good, you could really help a person on a really deep level through one-on-one. But when you get into these types of the courses, the group coaching programs, I think one of my clients, he just had his first $25,000 a month, which for him is like, it just is blown his mind. And that's just the beginning I like to see. I definitely believe courses, it just changes the game. So what's your vision for your business? How do you see, like, what's that big picture vision that you have for what you're up to back there?
Oh, I love that question. Oh, um, so I'm actually working on a self-love journal currently. Um, I I love giving myself love so that I can give everybody else love too. And I think that makes all the difference, because when we are burnt out, when we are stressed, when we are overwhelmed, we tend to put it on other people. We tend to put it on other people, and that's just a given. Like, we don't mean to at all. But it's like one of those things where if you don't kind of relax, if you don't like meditate on it, or just even think about it, journal it, write it out, like, it's kind of like one of those things that you kind of put to the back of your head, put in the back of your mind. And so the self-love journal is something that, like, is amazing, because it helps you figure out what you're feeling, how you're feeling about that, and how you can therefore shift it so that you can project that onto other people, because that's what it's ultimately about. And that's how we change the world, is like loving each other for who we are. And
Hmm.
it's okay to agree, like, disagree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
powerful stuff. Yeah. So question becomes so what in essence, what is the biggest transformation, the biggest shift as you work with your clients you want to make them make? Just like for me, right? So I know my biggest shift is in the financial realm. Because I know most individuals who come to us, one of the reasons is because they may be struggling financially. They're trying to figure out, okay, how do I get paid for what it is that I do? So I know for me, when I wake up in the morning, it really just excites me to see someone change their financial destiny once and for all. And for you, based on the type of coaching you help individuals with, what's that vision that you have for that individual? How do you see it changing them?
For me, it's like, so for one of the clients that I had her write down what her intentions for the course were
Hmm.
over the time of the 4 weeks. And she had written out 3 intentions for the entire week, because she didn't believe that she could get any further than 3 intentions. By the end of the week, by the end of the 4 weeks, she had about 12 things written down for her following week. And her testimony, it said to me, like, she did, like, at the beginning, she only wrote down 3 things because that's all that she believed that she could do. And so at the end of it, she believed and she knew that she could do more, because she was perfectly capable. So for me, it's more so about, like, having that confidence in yourself, believing in yourself to do it, and then achieving it.
Hmm. Love
And when I
that.
say that, it's very powerful, because it all starts with belief in yourself.
Yeah, yeah, love it, love it. Now, what's the most exciting part about running your business?
Oh, that I get to help people. Like, I know that sounds so cliche, but, like, when people have that mindset shift, it's like, oh yes, like, they see it now, they can see it. And it's like almost like you're getting contacts or glasses for the first time. Like, you can see it so clearly than what you could before.
Hmm.
And that kind of, like, for me, I know it was like, we all get addicted to something. It's like, pick your poison. But, like, for me, it was like personal development. Like, I want them to pick this as their poison.
Yeah, yeah.
If that,
So,
I know that sounds so
yeah.
cliche.
Now, how did you get into personal development in the first place? So how did it start for you?
Okay, so for me, I actually only started personal development maybe 14 months ago or so.
Hmm.
And when I started, I was in my undergrad. I was partying a lot, 3 and 4 nights a week. I didn't love myself. I didn't believe in myself at all. I was barely making the grades to pass my classes. And so, with that being said, it was like a really dark time, and I hit my lowest low. I was very depressed, and I just kind of hit that dark spot. And I I think it kind of gradually like got better as I reached out more and more for support. And it was just that matter of like, I know I'm not alone, but it's asking for that help. And I actually saw an influencer online that I had followed, and I saw that they were reading books, and I was like, oh, people read books, like this is a thing, this is like people do that. And so I like actually picked up a book and I started reading, and one of the first books that I had read was called 6 Months to Six Figures by Peter, I think, Voogd. I don't
Hmm.
want to chop that, but I know I just probably did. Peter Voogd, Voogd, whatever. Um, and I basically built my own business through his book. So it was like, okay, if I can read a book and build my own business like throughout the end of this book, it took me forever to read because I was like constantly journaling on these plans and like doing this research throughout the book. And that was probably what sparked the passion, because I was like, wow, that's really fun. And like, I actually really enjoyed just doing this. And like, oh my God, what else can I do? And so I then started reading another book called Unf Yourself. I don't know if I can cuss on this, but
Oh yeah,
Unf
you can.
Yourself.
Feel free.
Okay. So it's called Unfuck Yourself. And
Hmm.
I, from that, I just like skyrocketed. Like I just read these two personal development books. Then from there, I took a self-love and confidence course. And so like ever since then, I probably read like 15 books last year.
Hmm.
And that has just like skyrocketed me, changed my personal growth, my personal development, and I'm like obsessed with it now. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true as well. So, because I was the same way, because I spent 8 years in the U.S. Marines, and the entire time I was stationed in different places. So my entire 8 years, I really wasn't. I think of the entire 8 years I was in the U.S. Marines, I spent maybe 4 months in the actual U.S., and everything else was in different countries, in Brazil, Africa, Abu Dhabi, Japan, all these different places. So I was definitely a big party as well too. And I remember my first experience with personal development was uh, um, in Japan, and I had a boss, and I got in this car, and at the time I'm listening to rap music, doing all these different things. Then I got in this car, and when we got in, I'm expecting him to play some Jay-Z or some Lil Wayne or something, and he put on this tape, but it was a guy speaking, and when it was like the weirdest thing I ever heard. It's like, what is this? Like this guy's, and I remember getting out of the car and going to my friends, and like we made fun of it because we was like, this guy's like listening to people speak. Like how crazy is that? And it was just like the weirdest thing, and it was, but that was actually my first interaction with what personal development was. But for him, in his case, I saw how he was just progressing, progressing, progressing. I was like, there is something going on with this guy, man, because he's just everyone else seems to be barely getting by, but when it comes to promotions, he's always getting them, and I couldn't figure it out. And I kind of approached him and said, like, what is this? And that's when he kind of gave me this tape. At the time, I had the small iPods back in the day, but he gave me a little tape. He put a little MP3 file on there for me, and I didn't do anything with it for like maybe a year or something. And then I remember moving to the US and spent some time with family, but then realizing there was really nothing to do. So I played that thing, and that was the first experience I had with it. And I was like, this is actually some pretty cool stuff. The program was Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. That was the
Okay.
first one. From there, it went into the Tony Robbins, the Wayne Dyers, the Zig Ziglars, and all these different guys. And that world just became real for me, because
Like
that's
a
when you let me
domino effect,
see
like a spiral.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just changes everything. So
absolutely.
yeah. So in essence, what's your how do you face criticism? Because with what you do, especially when you put yourself out there online, you could face criticism, and not you could, but you will. So how do you have you faced any criticism online, and how did you deal with it?
That's actually a really good question because it's always in my head. Like every time I post something, I'm like, oh, what's so and so gonna think? And then I kind of reframe it to like, what do I think? Who cares what they think? Like this isn't their life. This isn't their trajectory. And like maybe they will change. Maybe I'll influence their change. I don't know, but that's not for me to decide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's having those subtle shifts, because even when I post things on Facebook, I'm like, oh well, what's my past employer gonna think? What are my old coworkers gonna think? And then I'm like, who cares? It's not their life. It's not theirs. It's mine to have. It's mine to hold. It's mine to cherish and keep for the rest of ever. And it's not up to them. They have their own life to worry about. So
Yeah, that is so powerful because I truly believe that we all have an audience that we are here to affect, especially as coaches and consultants. We have an audience that needs our message. They needed it yesterday. They needed it like 6 months ago. And by the fact, because I have a lot of individuals who reach out and they're like, I want to start my business, but the thing is, I'm just afraid of what people are going to say. And there are some who do start their businesses and they're like sitting on the sidelines, just waiting, not putting themselves out there. And it takes them so long. And my whole theory is that, hey, there's people who need what you have to offer, that advice, that knowledge that you have. They needed it like last year. And if you don't show up today, if you don't show up as your best self and not really care about the people who don't care about what you got, but the ones who do, if you show up and serve them and let them be the only goalpost as far as how you measure success, I think you'll do way better because number one, you'll show up every single day and you'll provide for them. And number two, you won't let the critics, whatever they say, affect you and take off your A game. So that's so powerful that you shared that. Yeah. Okay.
I was
Um,
just going to say, yeah, I was just going to say, like, business wise, it's not about me. It's about my effect onto others and what I can help them accomplish in their own journey. But in the sense of criticism, you know, that's that's probably where they need a coach or consultant the most, right? Because,
mhm.
you know, it's it is powerful because that tells you that they have something going on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some type of internal thing there.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So, question now becomes, out of everything you've learned over the past few years in terms of getting to where you are today, what would you say is that one key skill? I know there's probably a lot of them, but what would you say is that one that helped you get to the level of success you have today?
Stop worrying about, like, stop overthinking, probably, because that was the one thing I always turned to, is like I would come up with these scripts in my head of like what this person was going to say to me, how they were going to react to a situation, how I was going to react to that situation. And it's like a black hole in my head. And like these things hadn't even happened yet, but I was just overthinking situations. And so when I stopped that like I learned to stop overthinking things and just going with my gut and really like putting out how I feel, but with so much love instead of so much hate because I was overthinking it. Like that's what shifted me. Like that's the ultimate thing that changed me. And then I learned to like, and then it was like this domino effect of like, then I had so much self-love and then I had so much confidence because I was setting boundaries and like all of these things.
Hmm. Powerful stuff. So, stop overthinking.
Yeah, stop overthinking it. Just do it.
Yeah, love it. Well, hey, thank you so much. So, I guess what's if someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so my main platform right now is Instagram. So it's at Happiness Halls. It used to be Hollywood, but I changed it because Hollywood served me well, but now she's Happiness Halls. So she led me to where I am today. It's pretty powerful for me. So that's why I explained my username, but it's at Happiness Halls, and they can just DM me, or I'm starting my own podcast soon too, and that is called the Dream and Beam Podcast.
Hmm. Perfect, guys. So everything Holly just shared with you here as far as links wise, I'll definitely have it below this video. So if you're watching this, whether it's through the live or the replay, the link should be right below the video just so you could reach out to her and connect. Well, Holly, hey, thank you so much for stopping by. Do you have any final thoughts before we end here?
I think that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. You're welcome. And we shall be in touch.